Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome so many of you to this symposium, which we, the Austrian Central Bank, are very proud to host at our premises today. As you see, this is a jointly organized event by the Club of Vienna, Club of Rome, and the Austrian Ministry of Agriculture. This organizational setup already raises the highest expectation concerning the topics to be addressed. But I think your presence here today, such large numbers, clearly underlines the importance of the topic on the one hand, as well as the big and increasing interest in the respective questions we are thinking to address in this event on the other hand. In short, it demonstrates that a fast increasing share of the population, at least in this country, has started to realize the importance of these issues for their daily life, and as the overall title of the symposium signals, is willing to prepare themselves for these forthcoming changes and also to influence them. A special welcome in particular goes to those of you who have come a long way to be with us today and to contribute to our discussions. This welcome goes, of course, especially to our speakers who came to Vienna from the US and Asia, and we are really grateful that you have accepted our invitation to join us here for this event. First of all, we are very happy to have Dennis Meadows with us, and here in Vienna once again. He said me a minute ago that it's almost the 50th time that we came to Vienna. So it's a great pleasure, and we are looking forward to you and to your new ideas you will present in your lecture. Personally, I wear two different hats today. The first one is the head of Österreichische Nationalbank, the institution hosting this symposium here. But the second one, and I'm very happy about that, the second one is the head of being the newly elected president of the Austrian chapter of the Club of Rome, which fits quite nicely, I think, with today's events and the topic to be dealt with. Please allow me at the very beginning to elaborate a little bit more in detail on these two aspects of, let's call it, my personality present in this event. From the institutional perspective of Österreichische Nationalbank, it seems important to me that over now already a considerable number of years we have quite actively opened up not only this building but also the institution as a whole to events and discussions addressing a much broader range of issues as usually dealt with by a central bank via quite narrow responsibility they have. Over the years, the range of issues stretched from literature to history and from technology to politics, with environmental questions, for example, and issues of long-term and very long-term development always playing a specifically important role. We think it coincides very well with the fundamental task of a central bank to give room to these issues and to promote and to enable controversial discussions on this subject. To provide an open forum for these discussions, we are convinced as an institution is one of the things we think we owe to society to deliver a serious contribution to these important developments. Taking now ahead as a president of the Austrian chapter of the Club of Rome, it is of course a particular fascinating opportunity to have Dennis Meadows among us, who has shaped to such a large extent our thinking first on global issues, or perhaps more precise on the global nature of issues, which I think makes a difference. And second, on the long-term nature, importance, and the long-term consequences of the issue. I believe to remember, it's not exact a quotation, but I believe to remember that he, in essence, some time ago said two things which impressed me very much, and this I kept in my mind. One, it's not about precise dates. Being an economist, this is really important. It's not about precise dates, it's about precise forecasting. It's about getting a fundamental understanding what the crucial nature of a problem is. And two, related obviously to his famous study of 72, we did a very good job given the status of science and given the available methods and data at that time. What it tells us, in my interpretation in short, is deal with the relevant issues, most important thing. And second, apply the most advanced and best suited methods available. And this is, in my understanding, as relevant today across all sciences dealing with human development as this was the case in the early 70s. Let me finally add one thing. Because we all are, and I discussed this a little bit with Dennis a few minutes ago, because we all are most of the time very much concentrating on and concerned with short-term challenges, we tend to overlook the long-term and the very long-term developments and their consequences. And I think the ongoing economic crisis and how it came about is once again a very good and convincing example of this shortcoming. Having said this, welcome again to all of you at the UMB. Thanks to all who have contributed to make this event possible, and look forward to stimulating and fascinating presentations and discussions in the course of the day. Thank you for coming, and I hand over to Professor Knopf.
Good morning, everybody, also from my side. And first I have to thank the Austrian Central Bank for the generous offering us this wonderful hall, and looking for things which keep, as we say, soul and body together, which means food and drink outside. First of all, I have to thank also my colleagues and friends from the Balkan Group, who spontaneously agreed to take the burden of lectures for this seminar. And finally, I have to thank the Ministry of Agriculture, especially my friend Wolfram Tertschnik, who is the cause that we could organize this seminar, since he could organize the pre-meeting of the Balkan Group in Vienna at this time. Normally the pre-meetings are in Budapest, but this year and hopefully the next year will be this in Vienna. I would like to give you some information about the roots of the club of Vienna. The roots are going back to the 70s, when Konrad Lorenz invited the researchers to discussions in his house in Altenberg about the burning problems of his time and the burning problems of the society for the future. In the early 90s, the deputy mayor of the city of Vienna was very touched by when he read the book Limits the Growth, and he invited Dennis Meadows to get his advice what he should do for the future of the city. And Meadows came and he recommended, well, let us make a conference for the future, the Wiener Zukunftskonferenz. And Dennis was organizing the international group of researchers, and Hubert Riedl was asked to organize the national group of researchers. And out of this conference, finally a group was come together again in Altenberg under the chairmanship of Hubert Riedl, and the outcome of the many years' work of this group was the book Causes of Growth, not limits to growth, but causes of growth, based on the evolutionary epistemology, because if we know the causes, we can give politicians the right advice, because if we act at the causes, then we can solve probably the problems, if they listen to what science is producing. In year 2000, well, finally a lady made the proposal we should call this group as Club of Vienna. And our core was studying the causes of growth. In the year 2000, the Club of Vienna finally went to the city, to Vienna. It was before Leitenberg. And we get some financial support. And then we started a lot of projects. For example, one of the first projects was Vienna and its neighbors. Because the cities are pushed into a terrible rat race competition against each other, and we wanted to compensate it with the cooperation of Vienna and its neighbors. Because the cities as democratic institutions shouldn't be pushed by economic needs or something like that. Oh, sorry. This is... I have to go back.
That's okay.
This right? Okay. The second important project, which was running for several years, was called Taming Capitalism. Zähmung des Kapitalismus. There are some books outside of the conferences. We are organizing every year 1 or 2 conferences. And we make a system analysis about the structures of the existing capitalism, and very soon we discovered the society is mixing up goals and means. Because money is, if we go back to Aristotle, a mean. And the counterpart of a mean is the goal, the purpose. And since we have established GDP as the goal for politicians or for politics, we get a positive feedback in the system, and if we create a positive feedback in the system, well, we have exponential growth. And this is a typical dangerous situation. We cannot control it. So we have to find new goals. We are discussing this for a long time, but as long as you have a money term, or a term which is expressed in money, you have always the problem that the causa efficiency is overrunning the causa finalis, which means the final purpose. For example, happiness of people or something like that. One of the projects which led to a PhD result was the question of, I would tell it, cancer and corporations. Because we discovered that the structures and the strategies of cancer to exploit the body or something in the nature is exactly the same what international corporations are doing with the states. And it was proved already on hard data also. The taming capitalism was also dealing with the rules of the game, because there are games which are international, like games in the soccer, and we compared different games which were very relevant compared to the games in the financial sector. And finally, we were also touching some taboos, because we went into the issue of values and religions. And we could convince the Austrian representative of world religions to contribute to our conference. One of the driving causes of growth is technology. Technology is overrunning human understanding, is exceeding our influence, and we interact into the nature, and there is no direct feedback anymore today, and even not sometimes indirect feedback, because we have too many delays. Effects on different places we don't see, and we don't think we are responsible for them. These are just some examples from the past. At the moment we have about 6 projects running, dealing with segregation, equality, not in the mainstream sector, urbanization, away from this kind of fatalism, because the architects and urban planners are always extrapolating the urbanization figures from 50% of the people are living now in cities, and in the future 70% will live in the cities, and so on. If you analyze the history of cities, no urban society has survived for a long time. have no example of sustainable urban society at all. All urban societies collapsed later or earlier. This is one of the interesting findings, and we are analyzing the system of today, and really, of course, because it is from the evolutionary point of view, a city is an artificial body. It can only exist and keep its structure if it exploits everything around it, even at a distant situation. Just one of these cases. A very good example, we learned a little bit about what we call the Bildungsdekade, the decade of education, which ends now this year or next year, because we wanted to co-finance this project a little bit from the Ministry of Education. But we couldn't get any co-finance from the Ministry of Education because our program didn't fit, our project didn't fit in one of the programs. This is the typical example of how research is happening today. If you have a good and bright idea, which is really necessary in the core of the institution, and you go there and tell them, well, it is important for you because it is your duties, they are looking into the program. And if you don't fit into the program, you don't get any support. But we are doing this project anyhow, and we are analyzing the sustainability issue for the technical universities, because technical universities are producing people who are interfering into the nature and the society. And it would be important that the teachers there should and must know something about sustainability, very simple questions. We have analyzed the situation at our technical universities and other universities, and the situation at the universities is even worse than in the industry. In the industry, the people take much more care on sustainable issues than at universities. This is a very interesting intermediate finding. The Club of Vienna is also organizing monthly lectures in the Karl Kraus side, in one of the coffee restaurants here, the famous coffee restaurant. If you are interested, you can put your name on the list and you get the invitation. We are covering issues from medical sector to politics, international politics, economics, management, and these kind of things. And we did all the lectures on YouTube. You can have a look there, then you can see about our activities. And we are starting with a newsletter. We have started on the 1st of September a newsletter. You can look to the newsletter and see what is going on there. I have also to thank very much the staff of the chapter of Rome and the colleagues from the ministry, as well as from the colleagues of our secretariat in the Club of Vienna for the excellent organization of this meeting. And I hope this meeting will fulfill your expectations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Herman, and great many thanks to Felix for coming us. I'll be very brief on my role, and it's a multifold role. I have two roles today. I'll be briefly welcoming you on behalf of the ministry as a co-organizer. I'll be your moderator today, so I'll accompany you through the day, and I'll probably use that to begin with, give you a few technical details. After my very brief welcome to you, we will have a couple of sessions interrupted by a coffee break and a lunch break. We will be asking you to be very brief and precise in answering direct questions to the presenters. They should be more of a technical nature in terms of understanding what has been presented rather than contributions to the debate. I'd like to structure the debate a little bit ahead of the podium debate we'll have in the afternoon by means of notes we would like you to take and to pin outside on the pin walls. There's two differently colored sheets out there. There's a yellow colored sheet and a blue colored sheet. And these sheets refers to remarks you have and also refers to questions you'd like to be addressed when we have the podium debate in the afternoon. And that will help us to better meet your expectations in this debate in the afternoon. And that will also help us to structure our debate in a way that we provide something useful and meaningful to you and us ourselves to build on. Technically, you have a display of publications out there. You have the material of the conference in your conference maps and the list of participants, and you'll find the material of the conference and maybe some concluding remarks of the conference also later on the web pages of the Club of Vienna and the Austrian chapter of the Club of Rome, respectively. So that's for the technical part. The more important is the substance part of today, of course, and that gives me a brief opportunity to welcome you, to thank you that you're here, and to explain why we are here, we from the Ministry for the Agriculture, as Hermann and I said, and the environment. We are here as part of this meeting because we do not believe that we have to restrict ourselves to the core set of environmental policy challenges we manage every day, but rather, given the societal challenges and perhaps, or maybe, almost likely changes we experience, we have to go beyond our typical traditional domain of issues we debate, both in terms of the themes we debate and also in terms of the ways we do debate. One of the means we apply to do so is a platform we have established a couple of years ago, which is called Growth and Transition Platform, which is a multi-stakeholder platform, actually jointly carried by a couple of the ministries, supported by the social partners in Austria, but also supported by a couple of key representatives of the civil society and the scientific expertise we have in this country. And one of our ambitions is to further develop this network, this platform for debating the not so everyday routine business issues we are up to debate in our role as environmental policy advisors or administrators in environmental policy. Growth and Transition welcomes the outreach to other networks. Growth and Transition is looking forward to increase its cooperation with the Club of Vienna and the Austrian chapter of the Club of Rome in a transdisciplinary way beyond the barriers bureaucratic interaction provides for us. Growth and Transition welcomes the opportunity to interact and in some way to link up with professional other networks like the Balaton Group network. And this, as Hermann said in his intervention, was one of the reasons we were asking the Balaton Group to consider having a pre-meeting in Vienna. And this meeting is here today as part of this pre-meeting repertoire, where we try to learn from each other, to learn from excellent examples, but also to learn from an approach which goes across and beyond disciplinary boundaries. A few words on why we're not talking micro when we're talking about transition, why we're not talking about gradual things when we're talking about transition. I guess there's a general sensation, not only in this room, certainly in this room, but far beyond this room, outside that room, that major transitions are underway at that very moment. I guess it's experienced at every level. It's experienced at the individual level, family level, at the level of workplace security and what the future might bring, at the sector political level, at the macroeconomic level, in the European debates, where the big challenges apparently not yet met or not met in an efficient and satisfying way, and with the new and unforeseen regional and global challenges we experience these days. We would have never, ever thought of being on the brink of war in Europe in the 21st century, the beginning of the 21st century, and just the last couple of months have brought us right in the middle of that. We have never probably dared to believe that what started out as the so-called Arab Spring, just a couple of years, among other things, leads to apparently harder to control, a controllable movement of the ISIS trying to develop a new caliphate in the Middle East, and a couple of other things. So transitions are underway without any doubt, and it's also without any doubt that these transitions bring enormous turbulence with them, and in some respect also bring chaos with them. And the key question is, do we have the managerial capacity on all levels to cope with that? And a preliminary conclusion might be, and you might be sharing, that's my personal opinion though, is that the existing national, international, European policy regimes we operate in facing the ongoing and forthcoming transitions are primarily focused on optimization, what we do already do. To be better in the things we do already perform, to be more efficient in the way we address challenges. And by doing so, there might be a risk associated with it. And the risk might be that we might be enhancing lock-in situations, which we face ourselves being in, by using our traditional repertoire. And so a part of the debate today is probably, and I hope it will be, focusing on looking at our traditional repertoire and discussing or judging whether this repertoire is still appropriate. If we would have to think about things completely different and to do and to deal with things in a completely different way than we've been trained to deal with them for the last generations. Transitions, if you look back a little bit in history, are long-term fundamental changes in many respects. So changes in structures, in physical infrastructure, in economic infrastructure, in institutions, in rules and routines. Transitions are major changes in cultural respects, when we refer to our collective sets of norms, values, and paradigms we follow. Transitions are changes, dramatic changes in practices we apply as regards behavioral approaches, implementation approaches. And transitions are not typically limited to small segments of the society, to small subsectors, but they extend to the entire societal system, or to major subsystems of society. They're radical, as I said. They are more often revolutionary than evolutionary changes. They come along with a couple of very, very severe impacts. We believe, or I'm afraid we have to believe, across society. Transitions bring along with it that sectors change or disappear, that power and decision-making becomes redistributed, that organizations run into existential problems sometimes, and uncertainties as well as resistance gain momentum in transition phases. And inherent to transitions, and this is something which is both tempting and very challenging, is that inherent to transitions is uncertainty and unpredictability, where these transitions will lead us to. And by no means one could say that transitions in general, or the transitions we might be facing at that very moment, lead to more sustainable conditions. From what I've said, it sounds a bit like transitions are unmanageable. And in the classic understanding of how we apply management principles at the different levels, they probably are. Transitions happen. That does not mean that we just have to suffer from transitions. Transitions, I believe, require a governance approach to cope with them, to adapt to them, and to influence them in a certain way so that the outcome, in our concern of transitions like the ones we experience today, is that they may or might eventually lead to more sustainable conditions. That requires the old repertoire that we've been preaching but not often practicing. That requires long-term thinking. That requires thinking in terms of multi-domains, multi-actor, multi-level settings. That requires governance and an understanding that learning and innovation are key challenges for policy actors at all levels. So that's, in my view, part of the situation we're facing right now. And that situation, as many of us would say, does not come by surprise. And among the many voices that have been raised a long time ago, challenging us to foresee limits we are encountering. The most prominent voice probably has been the report with Halfron, some 42 years ago. And this is why we are particularly pleased to have Dennis with us as the co-author of that report, of that tape. And we're also pleased to have Dennis with us during Austria because Dennis has not been only a long-time visitor to Austria, but has also been somebody who has developed a very good and profound understanding of the approaches we apply and a critical view of the approaches we apply. So he's very well able and apt to provide us with some of his ideas on how the Austrian society, Austrian stakeholders, in our circumstances, will be able to cope, maybe with the changes we are about to experience, and with the changes by nature will eventually encompass. Dennis, the floor is yours.